Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
I
Mike and
always
Mike.
love it. I love it when we're together doing Hobby Think Tank.
Yes. I
We
love
don't
it
have
when
to
we're
remember.
together, Mike.
Yeah, I just don't have to remember any names. I like
Yeah, it's so easy.
that. Mike. Welcome, guys, to Hobby Think Tank, where we hopefully bring up hobby topics that make you, ponder the questions of the day. Today is an interesting question. There's been a lot in the news over the last week to 10 days about what Fanatics is doing to card shops, allocations, breakers, all these different things. And I was wondering, have breakers outlived their usefulness in the hobby? Do we need breakers anymore in the hobby? That is the question du jour. Do you like that? You want
I
to talk
do.
about
Yeah. And I have partaken in enough breaks to feel like I know enough about this topic, and I've certainly read plenty about it. And I'm excited to talk about it. I have some opinions both ways.
Yeah, I think it's one of those you could easily make an argument for both,
Yeah.
keeping them and letting them go the way of the dinosaur. Uh, and I think it's important to put into context the history of the breakers. The hobby existed long before there were anything called breakers, right? And breakers started coming about in the late 2000s, I guess, early 2010s,
Hmm.
of ways to, and I think the onset of breakers corresponded with higher end products, right? So you start having higher end products, and then you have people not being able to buy boxes and or cases and want to participate, and so this was a cheap way to allow people to buy higher end product. That it seems reasonable to me. Then breakers became breaking everything from Tops Allen and Ginter and opening day to transcendent cases and all that. My breaking experience is very limited. I have participated in two in my entire hobby career. Both were transcendent breaks, which is a super high end, crazy expensive product. And you got one card in the whole deal. And I remember it being a decent experience. I did both of them with Leighton sports cards because
Hmm.
they had like a bajillion transcendent cases for whatever reason. And I think my spot was 150 ish or so. But you were guaranteed something, right? And one year, the first year, I got a Sandy Koufax autograph number to 10.
That's all right.
So that did okay on that one. Honestly can't remember what I got the other year. I don't think it was anything nearly that good, or else I would remember it. But what's your breaking experience been like? Good, bad, indifferent?
Um, well, I didn't get any good cards from breaks. Like the best one was probably a $5 Jose Abreu patch card, jersey card. Um, I didn't buy into any big breaks though. So I did some low end baseball and low end basketball breaks, probably 10 of them. And I found that the customer service was very good. The viewing experience was very good. They would ship if I bought in and bought the Red Sox, for instance, on purpose, they would include extra Red Sox common players. A couple of the breakers I did, which I thought was nice customer service. Um, but it didn't do anything for me except kind of scratch that itch early in the pandemic of I want cards and can't buy them anywhere because all these breakers have them all.
So what do you think are, if we were to say, positive things that breakers bring to the hobby? So let's kind of weigh out positives and negatives, and that might lead us to a conclusion of, do we need breakers anymore? I think we both already come to a conclusion on where we fall on that, but let's talk through it, because the whole point of a think tank is to think through things and try to come up with things we might not have thought of individually, but together as a think tank. And you guys down below commenting about, what about this? I promise you, Mike and I are not going to cover it all in 30 minutes. And we are welcome to your comments, welcome to your thoughts. I will say before we get to that, it's a miracle that Mike and I are even talking tonight because the Red Sox and Rangers are playing each other. So it worked out well for the Rangers last night. We'll see what happens tonight. So, all right. Pros that the breakers bring to the hobby. Go.
Getting more eyeballs on cards and bringing people into the hobby who didn't think they could afford being in the hobby. And the keywords there being didn't think they could afford. Because I think that anybody can be a collector, but people believe that wax, or John Mangini says we should call them foil. Wax is too expensive, and that's the only entry point. So breakers get a lot more people in. Now that's debatable about if that's good or not. Is it good that more people are getting into the hobby and increasing prices? I don't know. Some people think so. What do you think?
I think it's good for the hobby. I think they're good. The pros of having breakers in the hobby is it does allow people to participate in higher end products they otherwise wouldn't be able to, most likely. I think if you were to ask people, most of them are vastly disappointing and disappointed in what the results are from that. But it allows them to, it's just gambling, right? I mean,
Yep.
opening any brand new stuff is gambling. Breaking is a gambling on a whole nother level. And I think it allows the companies to feel like they can get products sold and then kind of be done with it. They don't have to worry about getting it to the end consumer. They sell it all, bulk, huge amounts to breakers, ships to one place, it goes to one place, it's paid for, all these things. I think that's good for either a distributor, in this case now Fanatics Direct, since they pretty much are getting rid of distributors. It allows them to move a lot of product, which I think is good for the hobby, because if the card companies can't move a lot of product, then they're not going to make cards anymore, which is fine by me. I collect old stuff anyway that they haven't made for a long time, but I still like new product. I like there to be a continuous flow of cards into the market, because if there wasn't, people would all shift to vintage and I'd have too much competition.
Exactly.
Yep. So it's sad that the list of pros, and again, maybe we're just not thinking of them right now.
I have another one.
Okay, go ahead.
It gets singles on the market quicker. So people are breaking boxes, packs, etc., and then they immediately put them on the market. And so I, as a mostly buyer of singles, although I am guilty of ripping wax occasionally, get to see those cards quicker. The price of them immediately is way too high, and you wait a little while for them to come down. But I do like to buy ultra modern singles. I'm very picky about what I buy, but it gets them out there much, much quicker than it would without breakers.
Yeah, that's a great point and true. There's no question that, again, more product being opened, people likely not getting, they just want to be in the break. So they'll buy, a team they probably don't really PC or care about. They just, or, they buy the Angels, not because they like the Angels, but they want to hit a big Trout card or Ohtani, or, you know what I mean? You're trying to hit the key rookies, key veterans, whatever. And, again, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But they don't keep them, and they end up hitting the secondary market pretty quick. That's a good point.
Yep. That's all I've got for positives.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the positives I have. Any more from you?
No. I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I do that. I think there's everybody on the Wi-Fi. I'm going to switch Wi-Fi's. Hang on. If I break off for a second, just talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Let's see how this works. I'm back, I think.
That was quick.
Yeah.
I was about to start talking to myself.
So,
which
all right,
seems normal
negative.
on my own channel,
You
but
what?
not so much on your. I was about to start talking to myself, which seems
Oh,
normal on my own channel, but not so normal here.
yeah. This isn't a talk to yourself. Although, if I go out or break up, just keep talking.
Yeah.
Okay, negatives. What are some negatives?
Oh, it increases the prices of wax. I think that it also. Well, we'll talk about that one first. What do you think about that?
Well, sure. I mean, if there's a lot of breakers demanding product to break, demand increases prices, period. That's economics
Yep.
101.
Hmm.
Since both of us are economists, we know this supply demand curve. We know how it works. And yeah, uh, higher demand, higher price.
Yep.
Do you think if there weren't breakers, Fanatics, Tops, whatever, would release fewer products?
Yep. And that's another one of the negatives is that it increases the print count. So this Bowman Chrome refractor of Shane McClanahan, which I just bought, PSA 10, there are a million of them. I'm exaggerating a little bit because it's a refractor, but
Maybe not. Well, refractor. Okay.
yeah, it's the print runs are outrageous because that demand from breakers increases that. The only people who benefit from the breaking habit, other than the people who are buying into breaks, if you think they benefit from them, would be Fanatics and the manufacturers.
Right. And Ultra Pro, and because they have to buy top loaders and all,
Yes. Yep.
penny sleeves and all that fun stuff. Well, you just mentioned something in passing, maybe unintentionally, but the habit part of it is, I think, one of the big negatives. I think people, it's very addictive. We've
Yeah.
even on Chasing Cardboard have met with guys that are admitted, addicted to breaking like crack cocaine, and they end up with tons of cards they don't want, don't care about, don't need. And I think that's a problem. It puts hobby dollars in the wrong place. I don't ever want to hear about somebody going into debt because they got it's like a gambling addiction. They're addicted and they spend money they don't have to buy cards they don't really care about, and that feels like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, Paul Lesko, who I've had on my channel before, he's the hobby attorney. He brands himself as. He's great on Twitter. He's funny, and he's very informative. He's an attorney who focuses just on card collecting issues, and he talked about how breaks it is 100% gambling, and there were a bunch of attorneys in his feed in his replies, and none of them disagreed. They all said 100% gambling. It's the very definition of gambling.
Yeah. So you've got that aspect of it that I think is negative. You've got, um, again, hobby money going to something people don't care about, which ultimately will lead them either to financial ruin, and they leave the hobby for all the wrong reasons, or they're just accumulating crap that they don't necessarily need to sell or whatever, and they leave the hobby for the wrong reasons, and they don't love the hobby for what it can be.
Yeah.
It's just a wrong motivation.
Yeah. I remember the feeling when I was buying into breaks a few years ago. That feeling, it's very exciting. You think you're going to win, right? Like you buy a lottery ticket, you think you're going to win, but the chances of it are so low. And then there's that down afterwards of, oh, a $5 Jose Abreu jersey card for my $25 buy-in.
Right. Yeah, and it's, God, that euphoria that you feel, just like any high, is you have to keep going bigger and bigger to make it matter, to fire off the right endorphins to get you to feel that way again. And you end up, again, likely disappointed. The worst thing I think that happens with breaks is you do see big cards being hit, right?
Well,
Yeah.
those are the only ones that get attention.
Right. Oh my gosh, I pulled a 101, so and so. And it's like, yeah, how many other people
Right.
got hosed? One of the big negatives for me on breaking is, I mean, you can buy into a break and literally get nothing.
Absolutely. And I think that's more common than people realize.
Yeah.
Um, the problem, in addition to that, is that not only are you posting on social media that you pulled that one of one, but dozens of other social media profiles will capture that and then share it as well. And now thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of people are seeing this was pulled in a break, and then the next day this other one of one was pulled in a break, and this other one of one was pulled in a break, and people think, wow, all these things are pulled in breaks. I've got to get into breaks.
Yeah, it's looks like it's great. This is a great product. You know, you hear, oh, this is a fantastic product. So this was pulled, that was pulled, and I, that doesn't, I think, define a product. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of people believe that and fall into that trap and piss away a lot of good money.
Yeah, you just have to look at Dustin Sports Car Dad's video earlier this year about gambling, about, well, sports card addiction, and the comments in that, there were hundreds and hundreds of comments of people admitting that they too were addicted to breaks and buying wax, and it was a real problem for them.
So, more negatives. Go. We got plenty of time. So, do you have any more negatives?
Um, well, I want to go back to the positives for a minute because
Okay,
I have one other.
sure.
It is entertaining, but that's also part of what's so addicting about it. You mentioned in your interview with Chris Sewell, which just posted tonight, and I've already watched it because I can't help myself. Part of the money that you pay for opening wax is the entertainment of it. So if you buy $30 blaster and get $10 of cards, the other $20 was for the excitement of it, basically. And
Sure.
that's really simplifying it, oversimplifying it. But you're with breaks, you're also paying for that entertainment factor. It's like going to see Indiana Jones, which I did last week. I knew I wasn't going to watch an Academy Award movie, but I went and I was entertained, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I went and saw Indiana Jones as well last Friday. $5 movie. It's great for $5. Great. And that maybe there is a line, and everybody has their own thresholds, right? But if it's a $20 blaster, $25 blaster, I do that from time to time. I will buy
Mhm.
a blaster, literally knowing, and I said this in the video, knowing with Chris Sewell, knowing I'm pissing it away. It's
Mhm.
literally, I could flush it down the toilet and get more value at the end of it. Um, I know this, but I like it. Like I mentioned, Topps Holiday is one of my favorite products every year. I just like the different look of the cards, and I think it's a fun little set. So I usually buy several boxes to try to build a set and then see what other cool little gimmicky things I can pull out. I never do it to resell it or hope that I hit the, I hit a Trout super short print a couple of years ago. Uh, Card's probably not worth much now, but at the time it was a couple $100, and I kept it. I was like, well, this is cool that I have this. Um, so I do enjoy breaking. I enjoy breaking myself. I completely disagree about it being entertaining to watch. If you're in the break, I can see you have skin in the game, right? And so that would make sense to be at least interested. You may not necessarily be entertained, but you're at least interested because they're breaking a box that you're participating in or a case or whatever you're doing. The watching breaks that you're not participating in, I'd rather watch paint dry,
Hmm.
honestly. I find it insanely boring. I will, from time to time, watch a video mainly to see a new product.
Right.
Just to see, oh, let me see what these cards look like and
Hmm.
see the reaction to them. Oh, these are great quality, whatever, and it's more informative than I would use. I would use the word informative instead of entertaining. I'm certainly not ever severely entertained where, man, I can't wait to watch that again, you know,
That's
uh,
fair. Yeah.
but it can be informative. Again, I graduated from breakers long ago. I want to watch collectors do videos, not breakers.
Yeah. Well, that's the next point I have is that if it's kids that are finding their entry point into the hobby via breaking, it's not teaching them anything about collecting. It's just teaching them about finding the most valuable cards.
Right. So that would be a negative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the long-term effects of that on the next generation in the hobby? If that's what they know, that's what they're growing up with, is that breaking is, I mean, shoot, there's a breakers pavilion at the Bloody National, an entire section dedicated to people who are going to sit there in Chicago on their phone or on their camera, opening boxes for other people that aren't in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the sign that the apocalypse is upon us, right? The hobby apocalypse.
What else do you have for negatives?
How much more time do we have? I don't like, obviously there have been a lot of scandals with breaks, people scamming people out of cards. Y'all all know their names. I don't need to name the people that have been accused of doing shady things. That bothers me that that's even a possibility. There's plenty of breakers out there that are on the up and up. So I'm not trying to say at all that that's a universal statement.
I think the vast majority of them are good.
Yeah.
But the bad ones are
really
noisy.
Bad. Yeah. They're the squeaky wheel, right? And they get a lot of attention, and for whatever reason, people still use them. Like, dude, if you screw one person, even if it's not me, I'm done. I would never, continue to participate in that person's breaks. And that's the thing. Your integrity is so important. And once you lose it, apparently doesn't matter.
Unfathomable to me that people can be caught stealing cards from their customers on camera, and people will be like, I'm still going to buy from them, when there are plenty of other breakers who do the same exact product.
And that are actually honest.
Yeah.
Other negatives.
Do you think, before we move on to the next negative, do you think Fanatics will regulate the way breakers? I mean, I know that they have some rules that they've come out and they've kind of gone back and forth on them. Yeah. Do you think there will be strong regulations against things like that, and they'll kick people out? Because you have to think, Fanatics benefits from breakers. So are they really going to stop their most popular breakers from breaking if they've broken the rules?
Yes and yes. And I think if they don't, that is a horrible testimony you're giving to the rest of the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to stand up and say what's right and what's wrong. I don't know that it's Fanatics, but they need to be. They're the ones giving the product away. They can choose who they sell product to.
Right. I just don't believe they'll do it.
You don't think they'll be up for it? Then they'll have the stones to do it.
I don't.
So some crazy yahoo who happens to sell a lot of product for them does something shady, they'll either overlook it, slap them on the wrist.
That's exactly it. They'll slap them on the wrist and say, we took care of it.
Yeah. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
We compensated the person with what, that might happen at first. Maybe there's a 3-strike rule or this or, but
yep. I'm good with that.
I hate dishonesty. It bothers me to my core. So I get very kind of wound up about that kind of a topic. So finishing our final few minutes here. Do you have any more negatives?
I don't.
So to me, again, I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning. The hobby existed long before breakers were around. If suddenly tomorrow there were no more breakers, what does the hobby do?
Prices go down, print runs go down. I think it's, for us, the collectors, it's a net positive.
Okay. I agree. If there was no more breaking tomorrow, I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep. I'd be kind of like, good, again, so many other people that have great experiences with breaking, and good for you. I just see it as a net negative for the hobby, for what I believe the hobby should be. And again, it's my opinion, my viewpoint, my lens that I view the hobby through. But it's been a long viewpoint. I mean, I've got 42 years doing this, and I see things now that I'm not terribly thrilled about. Uh, Nobody cares what my opinion is, which is, sometimes I don't even care what my opinion is, but I do have one, and I will still use whatever platform and voice I have to share those opinions. Cool thing, freedom of speech. It's kind of nice, actually. But nobody has to listen to us. They can turn it off, right?
Yep.
They're probably turning off this episode right now. So we both agree net negative for the hobby. Breaking is a net negative.
Yep.
I mean,
I don't hold it against anybody who chooses to do it. I have subscribers, as I'm sure you do, who like to do breaks, and that's fine. It's just not for us.
Yeah. So yes, breakers could go away and the hobby would be just fine. It would be an adjustment on the manufacturer's part, on the hobby's part, on a lot of people. I think if breakers went away, the hobby would shrink. I think a lot of people would get out of the hobby completely. Like just be done with it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good point. I think you're probably right. I wonder how many of them would shift to buying singles or buying their own wax. That's cheaper.
Right. Buy your own wax. Now you can afford an entire box. You don't have to break in and be, buy a team or a division break or whatever, right? You can.
Yeah, I wonder if in 1990 or 92, would we have bought into breaks for Upper Deck, which were $1 a pack? Was I buying $36 boxes of Upper Deck? Or what was it? Was it Stadium Club that was like $3 or $4 a pack?
Yeah.
Back in 92 or 93. Yeah. Would I have bought into breaks? I probably would have as a teenager.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it would have looked like if that existed back in the early part of the 90s, during the junk wax era.
Yeah.
Which you're a junk wax hero. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to think through that. Again, it's an addiction. It's a gambling thing. And I think that's a universal, people like to do that.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many casinos everywhere.
Oh yeah.
People like to gamble.
Yep. I do.
Games of chance. I do too. I play poker and blackjack and I know I'm not going to win most of the time. And yet I still go back and sit down, every chance I can.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the human condition is really to blame, not the break. And I don't blame the breakers. They're just dealing with the cards they're dealt.
Yep. They're business people.
Yeah. And good for them. But I think it's going to change. I think we're going to see dramatic changes in the way breaking works over the next year to 18 months. I think there will be several iterations of what it looks like. I think what we just saw is a microcosm of Fanatics will come out with a policy and uproar will happen. They will modify it to some degree and continue to do so till they get down the road a year and a half and kind of figure all this out, what it's going to look like going forward. But I think it's going to change.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
I think the biggest change I would want to see is the customer's guaranteed to get something.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
That there's no shutouts anymore.
Yeah, and there probably should be some definition of what something is.
A certain return on your.
Yeah. So if you put $25 in, you should get some sort of guaranteed return. I don't know. I haven't really given regulation too much thought.
Yeah, I mean, it could even be you buy into a stadium club break, and if your team doesn't hit, you get a couple packs of Top Series 2, or
sure,
something.
Yep.
But I think the shutouts need to end. That's, if I could change one thing, that would be it.
Yep, I agree.
But that actually might encourage more breakers, people to participate, because they know they're going to get something. If I think the shutouts discourage people and get them frustrated, and they end up doing less of them. Maybe if they know they're going, I know I'm going to get something. That's kind of why I bought into the Transcendent brakes, because I knew I was going to get a card. It may not be a card worth what I paid for the brake, but I knew I wasn't going to get shut out.
Yeah.
And that mattered to me.
Yep. Great point.
So anyway, our time is up. 30 minutes. Trying to stay. Well, how do you think the comments are going to be?
Mixed. I think we have a lot of people who are pro brakes, but I would guess more anti-brake.
Well, we're excited to hear whatever you have to say. Your opinion matters, and it's okay to think differently than Mike and I think. We're not, saying we have all the solutions, all the answers, but those are our thoughts. We're sticking to them, and we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you guys soon. Keep collecting.